For the last video birthday month, we are going with Yellowstone Bourbon. Greetings, my name is Brian. Welcome to KillCo Whiskey Musings. As you can see here, we have a limestone cowboy. And I'll start with the story of Yellowstone Bourbon and me. Last time I had this bourbon was Bourbon on the Banks. I was actually hanging out with It's Bourbon Night at their booth for this event in Kentucky. Needless to say, it's a nice memory just from that. But what I do remember the most is that at the end of the festival, Yellowstone's booth was right next to It's Bourbon Night. I talked to the gentleman there who had a very nice hat on. I believe he had a pretty decent mustache or beard. It's been a bit. But he gave me a fairly generous sized pour of whiskey, and ever since then, I had been considering getting Yellowstone my own, but I haven't seen any of them in my area. So thankfully, It's Bourbon Night did a pick, and now I get to have my own bottle at home. There we go. I will admit that one thing I feel weird about is that they have what feels to me like some kind of wine bottle. However, I do like the raised text that they have on here on the actual bottle, so they are specially made. And of course, since I am doing the last video of It's Bourbon Night bottles for this month, I'm using the super fancy glass. Oh my god. Got on my keyboard. As you can see here, it is hand selected by It's Bourbon Night. Single barrel number 7787401. I love those sevens. And of course, alcohol 57.5%, another 7, proof 115. Barreled on 9/21/2017. We begin with the color. This is actually a little lighter than I thought it would be. But I know I'm also using a very fancy glass. It's a faint orange with a tint of yellow. Honeycomb-esque. Oh yeah. That was a lovely caramel. Oh my. I wasn't expecting this kind of nose out of this. Toffee, a little bit of vanilla. Make me think of peanut brittle, cinnamon rolls. Yeah, heavy toffee. Wow. It's very inviting. It's almost as if you walked into a bakery. Oh yeah, well, I can definitely say this just pleads drink me onto the palate. Oof. Wow, it's punchy, a little punchy. The first sip, I try not to think about it, but this one is demanding. And it's spicy. And it's staying there. Certainly starting to feel like a cowboy bourbon. This is the kind of thing they'd put in a shot and drink it and be like, yeah. So, second sip, hold on the palate and see what we can find from that. It's dry, honey, slight cinnamon, vanilla, touch of caramel, dry. It's getting dry. And then the dry just stays there for the finish. It's tasty, but it's not as sweet as I want it to be. The sweetness is there at the start, but then the dry takes over and just kind of lingers halfway through to the end. What that means is my mouth is dry. I should have another sip. It's more oak forward. It's actually making me think of Knob Creek a little. And it's more spicy, less sweet, more cinnamon, more prickly. So a bit of black pepper, possibly even white pepper. But this time it's not as dry as the finish. All right, one more sip. See if I can get anything else out of this, but it's high proof, so the more I drink of it, the harder it's going to be for me personally to start getting more specific notes out of it. The sweetness kind of gone away. Now it's very dry. Yeah, it's giving me Knob Creek vibes. I'm not a huge fan of Knob Creek because I find it dry and not as sweet as my preference. This one had a lot going for it on the second sip, but as I drank more and more of it, the proof started to get in the way, and the sweetness got toned down, and the dry notes, the oak, the wood notes started to come through. I'll have one more sip, see if I can get anything else out of this. But first, I'm going to have a drink of water. Yeah. Spicy. Oddly enough, it's making me think of Jim Beam. And now I'm thinking of nuts like walnuts, peanuts, a little spice. I had a thread of vanilla just shoot through there, and now it's starting to get dry again. I'm going to add a couple drops of water to this and see what that does. This is my dropper, which I keep forgetting to show. I will also preface this with saying this is just tap water. 2 drops. And though normally I would want this to sit for a few minutes, I prefer to just spin it around, try to get it to meld together before I take a sip. There's a little more sweetness on the nose, but it's actually becoming a bit muted, but it's not as punchy or demanding as it was before. The palate feels a little more thinned out. It's still dry, but not as dry. There aren't as many sweet notes. There's a slight bit of vanilla, a little cinnamon. I got a touch of raspberry, and now I'm thinking of peanut butter. But now it is just a tingly feeling on my tongue, and it's not as dry, but it's still there. So curious. This is definitely a different type of bourbon to me, but my default tends to be sweeter bourbon, so I will lean into those pretty hard. But this is definitely something that demands it be in my collection, because now I can use it in a flight to show what kind of distinct differences there are in bourbon. A delightful one that demands a little bit of exploration. There you have it, folks. As always, live long and prosper. Don't forget to be awesome. And I will see you out there. Thank you for joining me on KillCo Whiskey Musings. You can find my social media and Patreon in the links below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.